Hi there, it's Polly here, Mr. Snoots. And yeah, look, just a kind of, well, hopefully a brief tea talk thing here on playing the game versus gaming the system. So, I've played a couple of games recently. I often run original Dungeons and Dragons for people, partly to show them and try and get across the charm of those older systems. But I'll also often run very simple, robust, great games like Traveller and Cepheus and these sorts of things, And it's been sort of interesting seeing the shock, particularly as people who have grown up with D&D Third Ed, Pathfinder, which is D&D Third Ed, and D&D Fifth Ed. They're shocked when they come into something where there are no specific character powers, there are no clever, like, little game-breaking traits that break the rules just for your character under set systems, no escalating powers, and no powers that piggyback on other powers. There's no books you can look through to minimax and find that game-breaking thing. And as a result, someone was saying at this club I was at the other night that it was an interesting experience playing with me, because they said, we did a story. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. It's like, it was only when I got home I realized that we hadn't actually had a combat in our game. There was some stuff there which we'd crept past, and there were some things that we'd spoken to and gone past. And there's one guy kind of weaseled his way through something that was going to be fairly dangerous, but he weaseled his way past. And there was that epic time when we were like fleeing from this massive thing, and we were ducking and we were dodging, we were doubling back, and these people were doing these amazing sort of leaps across to find these these ropes which we'd accidentally tied on the far side of the thing. Someone actually like managed to do a leap and swing back and pass the rope to people, and there's things like getting closer and closer. It actually felt like it was epic, but it was more like a series of cool movie scenes. Yeah. And the difference there was that you were playing the game, not gaming the system. And said, look, like, well, I have a singular talent as a game's mini-maxer. I can usually comb through a set of rules, and I can find the stuff that will break it. D&D, I was on the playtesting teams for D&D version 3.0. As those kind of games, we have the feats and the traits and the powers go, you'll notice that many of these, you can link these powers together so that these things suddenly literally become superpowers. I don't do cleave, where after I've knocked a opponent down, I get a second swing at anyone else who's there. I can keep swinging at anything anywhere around me that goes down. Then I can start moving between things, and then I just become this reaper of death that can just mow their way through hundreds of things. So because you've deliberately built these powers to do this. So there's a lot of time goes into scheming about where your character is going to go. Lots of combing through books and combing through supplements and finding those cool little niche things which will really make this thing do damage. It's always about combat. It's always about combat. And, I can do it, but as I was looking at it, it's like, this isn't really a game I want to play when my character does this. And in fact, as we were doing some stuff for this, I deliberately moved my character away from using any of these powers, because, well, let's do what we're supposed to be doing. Think our way around things, talk our way past the guards, figure out what's going on in this whodunit, find a smarter way of doing this, But the people who are there to make the escalating powers want the combats where these show, so it sort of fights each other. So yeah, there is actually a dichotomy, twin branches of play, dilemma, two branches, and I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I just think game culture, I think the best games are when you play the game, not the system. Playing the system will give you a series of essentially tabletop battles but I'm not sure it'll give you those epic parts of an emotional journey that are going to stay with you forever. Sure, you might defeat the minions and then defeat the level boss and then maybe go on and defeat the overall boss, but these are a series of things, and unless random dice rolls somehow come up in the story and this guy did an epic fail at this point or an epic success at here, it's kind of a grind. Everyone does the set things that they do in the set turn that the rules tell them and roll their dice in the set an acceptable way. I think you're missing a lot of the experience of role-playing games if you don't engage in a broader style which engages you more in thinking. And that thinking can be engaging cleverly if you're that sort of extroverted person that can sort of play a rich character, can engage with NPCs and so on. But it also shows in just engaging with the wonder of a world, exploring, looking, thinking, enjoying, coming up with cool ideas, and engaging in the emotional journey of the game. Because in the end, at the end of a game, we want everyone to go home feeling that they've just been through something amazing. They've had a wonderful time. And however that can be achieved for those people, you will get hints of that from talking with them, session zeroing, and this sort of thing. But I think you're missing a lot of the role-playing experience if you're not engaging in a way beyond merely gaming the system. Now, we had some people run for us, what was it? Advanced Fighting Fantasy. Now, Fighting Fantasy had not been part of my background. I've never played a Fighting Fantasy book. It was for a generation way younger than me, because I'm way old. Shut up. Sorry. But it meant a lot to the people that were playing. But as we played this thing, the system was interesting. It's not complex. You've got your character design, pretty easy to do, but you do make a uniquely personalized character as you do it, which is great. So everyone's got a great idea of what they look like, who they are, how they feel. Magic users and whatever, yes, they can pick their spells, and of course they have a bit of tactical thinking to do because their stamina that they're using for casting spells is a limited resource, so they've got to be careful. But that simplicity of system meant that we tended to engage more with the actual game that the umpire was putting before us. So yeah, it was a very interesting lesson in KISS. Keep it simple, stupid actually meant that no one was worried about engaging powers and traits and so on. And because with the things that we could do were fairly simple and straightforward and didn't require rules knowledge or scheming, we had to look for how the skills and traits and things that characters had would engage with the world and, you know, trigger into activities that we could positively do to push our story forward. So yeah, on a game design point of view, that was actually quite interesting for me, because of course we keep wanting to do games that sort of cover so much, and there's a habit amongst gaming groups now to play up to, gaming design groups, to kind of play up to the computer game players who kind of want that constant escalation of power and almost exponential growth, as opposed to just getting better as they go along. But that also mixed up with, I guess, if you're like highly skilled in gaming the system, you come up with a character that's so much better than someone that's, you know, isn't invested in finding the rorts, the bits in the rules that give you that super extra hyper advantage. So, you know, you get this massive gap between characters, between those who can basically jimmy the system and those who can't. So unless you keep up with those who can jimmy the system, your characters kind of suck compared to everyone else's, and they achieve more, you get left behind, so you don't enjoy the game, and eventually you kind of disengage with the hobby. Not a good journey. So yeah, I think a lot of I think a lot more thought for many groups has to go into how to cater to expanding the experience beyond simply some dice rolls and rorts that will give you some on-table battles. And, like, I'm not trying to be a grunyard here and say old school rules do it well, because old school rules are where this trouble came from in the first place. But there are some great modern rules that are stepping back to try and again say, at its core, we want you to come out with a feeling of, this. So if you have a look at games like, Cepheus, like a lot of the Free League stuff and so on, there's plenty of color in these games, plenty of color in these characters. There's plenty of powers and things to choose from, but they're not lending themselves specifically to a game style that involves essentially just playing a system to win. And I think that little core is the problem. Playing a role-playing game to win. Playing with the idea that if I kill more stuff than everyone else at the table, if my character's the butchest and my character's the most murderous, then I am the best. I am doing well. The more my character hacks and maims and slaughters and kung fu fights his way through everything, that is my measure of success. And I guess people have to have some way of measuring success in things. But keep an eye on the culture of your games table and try and provide other measures of success beyond that. And I think you'll find people start disengaging from that as their core means of play. A friend who runs things for me occasionally here says, I've noticed that the stuff that I can get you to really, me, to really engage in is interesting creatures, and moody, amazing places, and trying to make a place that's kind of your own special, weird home. Those are things I can engage you in very quick. So as you get to those things and make them and improve them, and as you find some strange, weird, orphaned creature and look after it, and it becomes one of your gang and so on, it's like that's kind of your measure of success, is how well you're helping these things and gathering these things, and and kind of the richness of the network that you make around you is your thing. This guy over here, his personal network was essentially how many people he could draw on for different favors and different things. He wanted to be more of a mover and shaker, so his thing was kind of who he knew, who he was battling on, and he didn't really want to amass gold or make a giant castle with the obligatory retainers or something, but he did want to be someone who could just swan into a place and be the power break. All right, well, so that guy's got his own thing. So yeah, there are these things. But yeah, bear in mind that there are ways of getting people to remeasure their success. How much of this strange unknown world have I explored? What new horizons have I crossed? What amazing things have I found? How cool was that lost city? How creepy was that valley full of black iron statues that just kept shifting position and we never saw it happen? All these kind of things, that experience can be your measure of success, as opposed to, in the last session, my character kicked more ass than these other guys did. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. Playing the game as opposed to gaming the system, I think, gives you a better role-playing game experience, and I think for everyone a happier one, because everyone comes out with a story and an engagement that is so much richer than just rolling some dice and making some imaginary enemies kick the bucket. We done? We're done. Alrighty. Hope to see everyone around the games table sometime soon. He wants to push the button. Blink.